Hi, I'm Caleb. Hey, everybody. Hi, it's the end of the episode. We're going to acknowledge you now.
Hey,
If you made
yeah.
it this far and you haven't seen Godzilla yet, I feel like you got the idea. He shows up. They say, "Hey, we don't like you here destroying New York City." They don't believe the scientists. They try to blow him up. It doesn't work. And then they blow him up again, and it doesn't work. And then there's eggs and baby Godzillas, and they blow him up again, and then there's still one more egg. So that was the movie, and it's all Matthew Broderick, and yay, cheeseburger, bang bang, America. Anything else, Brian?
I feel like that was a great TDLR, and you should put that at the beginning of the episode. Also, this doesn't need to be in the episode, but now that I say it, it definitely is. Check this shirt, bro.
Oh wow, is that like from like? Did you get that at like a
It's
like
like
a thrift
a
store or something, or did
American
you?
American vintage brand,
Okay,
like a recreation kind of a
that's
thing,
amazing.
from my understanding. It is a thick boy shirt in multiple ways.
I like a good.
It is
I like a good
it is a
heavyweight
thick
cotton.
fabric.
Yeah, good heavyweight thick
It's
cotton
also
T-shirt.
a large shirt.
We like a thick. Why are you scowling at me over there? This is the
Scowling.
show. Anyways, hey everybody, welcome back. This is the one about Godzilla movies. Talking about thick fabrics over here. Such as the
Yeah,
one that Brian's shirt is made out of. Yeah,
true.
right. So, any
We're
follow
back.
from the last episode? We're back.
It's been a hot second since the last episode. Um, yeah, what do I remember from our last conversation?
It's been a
Not a whole
fortnight.
lot.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this is just off to a great start. Off to a great start. Yeah, glad you're here. Welcome. If you haven't already subscribed or liked, go ahead and take a moment and do that for us, please. It helps us reach more people, and we like doing that. And there's a Patreon, which you can find in the show notes. And I never remember the name of it off the top of my head. So yeah, find the link in the show notes, either in your podcast player or on YouTube. That description there on the yonder video. Brian, what movie are we talking
Smash
about?
that like button.
Smashed it. This is a destruct.
Comedic timing.
What
Um, what are we talking about?
this dried
We
fruit.
we just no one's gonna listen to this. We just watched the next movie on our list, which turns out to be the 1998 Godzilla movie, which was a TriStar Pictures movie and not affiliated with Toho,
Correct.
to
Yep.
the best of my understanding.
Yep. So Sony,
TriStar is owned by Sony. I don't know if they owned them at the time. They probably did.
they did, yeah.
Um,
So Sony/TriStar bought the rights from, or rented, however you want to, they bought it. Paid money for the rights to Godzilla to Toho for 3 films, and only ended up making the one. And I can't wait to talk about the money that it generated because it's so great. Anyways,
is it
um,
is it considered spoilers for you to talk about your thoughts on the movie now, or
no, I mean we can
no?
start. We can start right. This is the show.
Well,
It's the whole
the
point of the
comment
show.
you just made alluded to maybe some. I'm sure you'll share your thoughts. We'll get into it.
Yeah. Do you want me to start this time since you normally start?
Oh my gosh, is that out of place? Are we? Can we even do that? Is that allowed? It doesn't matter.
Can we do what? Is what allowed? For me to go first?
If you go first,
Oh,
like, is that a break of format?
I mean, it's
Like,
your show, dude. I'm
how
just,
established are we?
as established before, it's your show. I am just the monkey. So
Oh, okay.
whatever you
With the symbols.
doctor. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
My goal every episode is to try and trigger your ADHD.
Well,
I don't have to do
we
much.
started with thick fabric.
Thick fabric. Well, this movie, I guess I'll just say initially, this movie was too long. I won't get into my other thoughts.
Way too
And
long.
because of that, I was only paying attention 75% of the time. And also because
And
of
yet you
that,
still
I was
probably
able to,
completely understood it, right? Like,
for sure, there wasn't a lot of story. I was able to take notes for my little review on Letterboxd during the film rather than after, because I didn't feel that I was missing important moments.
that's amazing.
um,
Sorry, I'm just noticing that for those of you not watching the YouTube, I'm noticing that the pockets on this shirt are kind of pointing upwards in awkward directions, and I'm just gonna. You want to talk about triggering my ADHD? I will be sitting here the whole recording if I don't. So, anyways, continue. Sorry for interrupting.
um, yeah, overall, worth a watch.
Was it
D-
for the context?
Once. I'll
For
watch anything
science?
once.
For science?
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, Caleb. We were talking a little while ago, and I could have sworn you said you were watching this film just casually.
Mm-hmm.
Am I incorrect?
Mm-mm.
So you weren't watching it for the podcast, but you were just watching it in regular life for just average reasons.
For hey, I haven't watched this since who knows when, since it was
Mm.
on a DVD for sure. And I am surprised at it's another one of those movies that I'm surprised at how many things I quote in my real life all the time. We're like, oh, that's that one. Come on, it'll be fun.
There
It'll
were
be
some
fun. It'll be
funny
fun.
lines.
Like,
Oh my gosh.
well, I can't tell Lucy. She'll hurt me. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Ah, that was funny. And you willingly watched it again
Yeah.
for this episode.
Yeah. And this time I actually instead of just watching it through the lens of nostalgia, I put it on. I watched through the lens of, somebody who maybe would consider a movie a little bit. And I was sorely disappointed. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Ding. I have a bell elsewhere in my room. I should have it on the table when we're recording these. Anyways, should I get into my thoughts?
Please. I'm
I
falling off my chair.
actually, I don't know, you might be interested, a listener, to understand that I have more positive thoughts than I expected. There are some things I really liked in this film, actually. Anyways, so this is the only Sony Pictures Godzilla movie, I think.
Yes.
I'm sure you'll get into the box office stuff afterwards, but so here's some things I really liked. As far as I can tell, this was shot on film. The color science and the way they color graded a lot of the sequences. I'm not necessarily talking about action, maybe more in the quiet moments. The color science of it is just beautiful. Like if you were to take a color palette from a lot of scenes, I just I wasn't watching it oh, this is the most cinematic thing I've ever seen. But there were a lot of scenes where I was like, ooh, I really like if you were to come up with the Pantone color for that scene or something.
Yeah.
It was very aesthetically pleasing, complementary colors.
Yeah, there's a lot.
A splash of color in the corner. And
yeah, it's you could take a screenshot of a scene and feed it to something and say, "Hey, give me a color palette," kind of thing, and it would just
oh
be
yeah,
some
for
real
hue lights or something
stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, totally. Yeah, that was mostly in not the action moments. So that was sick. I guess spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the movie, maybe you should go watch it, or maybe you don't care. There's a shot in the movie, not the initial shot of a ship being destroyed. There's a shot not too far into the film of several fishing boats that are out at sea.
Yeah, those 3 boats.
Yes, and they their engines are going full speed, and they stop moving, but the engines are still going. So they're just kind of treading water, and they are kind of talking about it, and they're like, "Oh, maybe there's something in our nets. We should pull up the nets." And they're turning on the motors to pull in the nets. And like as they're going to do that, all of a sudden they start kind of being dragged backwards. So there's this kind of like this cool shot where you can tell the camera is more or less stationary, but there's these three boats that are moving backwards.
Towards the camera.
And then they get pulled down into the ocean. And there's just this really sick shot of like these three boats, like at like a 30-degree angle, just being pulled by ropes slowly into the ocean. And then there's this top-down shot.
That shot is what I've been visualizing this whole time you've been speaking. Is that exact like?
It's so cool. And like the lights on the boats are still like on, and you can see them like glowing under the surface of the water. It's so metal.
Yeah. And then like there's the one, so and then they get close up on the one as it's going in the water. The dudes are like clambering off the boat and like it. Yeah, it just was.
Yeah, they're like running up to the highest point of the boat just to jump off into the sea, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
what do we accomplish here? But whatever. The shot
just
was
do
really
something
cool.
until we said cut.
Yeah. Well, some of them just jumped off just right into the water where they were. The other ones like ran up to the highest point of the boat and then just jumped off anyways. It's all going underwater, man. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyways, that shot was sick. Another shot that was really sick was like this old man going fishing at the end of the pier, and you just kind of see like this small tsunami forming as like a shape is like swimming towards him, and you see sort of like this raised like lump in the water, and like the fins coming in, and just the way that it, like the how to describe it visually, like almost like two dorsal fins kind of sticking outwards at angles, kind of sticking up through the water, that kind of a vibe. And just like this rise of water that just starts going to, and of course the classic movie thing, he's just like doesn't move, he just stands there and lets it come towards him,
frozen in fear,
like many other characters in this movie.
Goodness gracious, dude,
that was very written into the script. Makes no sense. But anyways, the resulting shot as a result of that was sick, as like basically Godzilla just like destroys this pier a little bit in slow motion as this man just like turns and runs, and the pier is just being destroyed behind him all the way to the shore.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
The
and
wood
it really like sells the scale of like how large they've made Godzilla in this movie, which is I guess a helpful topic. That I think this is probably the biggest Godzilla, maybe not the biggest Godzilla,
not quite
but
the biggest.
They definitely really scaled them up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big scale. There's like a lot of moments earlier in the film, not a lot of moments, some investigative moments earlier in the film where there's sort of some aerial shots of these footprints of Godzilla in the ground, and they're just massive. Like there's, you could fit like 20 people in the footprint,
mm-hmm.
just standing on the ground. Like that's kind of the scale they were setting up.
Here's your sample. Where? I don't see it. You're standing in it.
I'm amazed you remember these quotes. They're familiar to me.
Zilla is 70 meters tall.
In this one?
Yes.
Okay.
The legendary Godzilla is the tallest at 119 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Shin Godzilla was 118 meters, and then Godzilla -1 is 108 meters.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, fun.
Cool.
So, not the tallest, but also not the shortest either. Definitely like on the taller,
bigger than maybe previous iterations or
yes.
the ones we've seen.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, the biggest that we've seen so far. Yes.
Right. Have they? Did they do any taller ones in the other movies previously that we haven't watched yet?
No, it's largely like all the 70s ones. He's like just, it's basically the same suit, if you will, like in every movie.
Same scale.
Same scale. And then the 80s, I think he's a little bit bigger, but again, it's still kind of just about the same. And then they really start messing around in the 90s and onward. So.
Sure. Cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that I liked. The blonde chick is attractive. Um,
Audrey.
I forgot her name.
Yeah.
She wasn't a significant role in the movie, even though she was, but she wasn't.
Right.
Um, I thought the holes ripped in buildings where you like went through a whole building and there's just like this gaping hole that goes through the entire building. Like the way they built that, I don't know if they did miniatures or how they shot some of those. Really cool design. It's the kind of shot where you're like, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, it was a cool
You know?
idea.
Like we've seen damaged buildings before, where the concept of like a semicircular hole like straight through a building, like that's kind of a cool viewpoint.
I guess it's kind of spoiler alert for other films, and if you don't want me to do this, I won't. So tell me, do you mind if I small spoiler along the lines of that kind of destruction?
I don't mind.
They use that in in Toho movies going forward, at least like 2 that I can think of off the top of my head.
So they like the idea.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, definitely something worth keeping. Other things. There were some little baby Godzillas later in the movie.
Some.
Some.
There were some.
And so their heads and maybe some close-up shots of Godzilla's head. It looked like they had some animatronics going on in this movie
for
some close-up
sure.
shots.
Yep.
And that stuff looked really great.
It did.
Big fan of seeing those. It blended really well on film. It just looked really good. Just even like the movement control of those animatronic pieces, like was well done. Like it just was seamless. So I think that was good.
I was kind of surprised as I was watching this that like for 1998, the like special effects and especially Godzilla stand up. Like it doesn't look terribly like a whole bunch of CGI on top of real footage, which I mean, not that I've watched a lot of stuff from late 90s recently, but it struck me as like for something that was so near the like one of the last movies with like real old school almost prototype cell phones, still depending on pay phones as a plot point, still depending on like VHS as a plot point kind of thing. Like
that's true. A lot of tape.
That there was still like, yeah, I don't know, just that it looked that good, I think.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if this counts as like something that I liked per se, but I appreciated this being like, I don't know, the third or fourth film we've watched in the sequence that we're watching in. I appreciated that like sort of the flow of the story deviated from like the stereotypical rise of Godzilla, and then the last half to third of the movie is just destruction.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different sections to this movie. As previously stated, it's too long. So there's a lot of different sections. There's different periods of destruction. A lot of like the stereotypical destruction walking through the city occurs a lot closer to the front half of the film, a little bit in the middle. So the acts, if you were to like divide it into acts, are kind of divided around different story elements, but they aren't necessarily centered around just destruction. There's like a lot of things going on with the human characters and the other parts of the story.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed the variety of that. Yeah.
I'm looking up the director right now and and who's the other guy here?
Doesn't have a lot of well-rated films, I noticed.
No.
Yeah. So those are my positives.
Interesting. Okay. I think I'll come back to that. I mean, why don't I let's break it up a little bit. I'm gonna do my positives here. I think
Sure.
Everything that you called out is a direct. I think everything that you liked is a. I mean, if I look at everything that Roland Emmerich has directed, do you know who Roland Emmerich is?
I looked at
He
the
directed.
ratings over his.
He directed Independence Day.
Did
He directed The Patriot.
Patriot, Independence Day, and Stargate
And
seem to be the
Stargate.
only things
Yeah.
that are higher than a 5 out of 10 on IMDb
Yeah.
that he's done,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
And I,
Divisive figure, perhaps.
yeah, very, but I can kind of see like everything you talk about, like I think some of like the shot choices, color palettes, the fact that it was shot on film, like that kind of just like the look and feel of the film was definitely a lot of his influence, for sure. I think this movie has so many glimmers of a really, really great Godzilla movie, and it just got messed up by like they put Inspector Gadget as the main role. They like they I don't I
That's
mean
true. When did that movie come out?
That's a great question. Let's find out. Matthew Broderick.
Wasn't it actor? 99. So
Yeah. Okay, so after
he
that.
probably got Inspector Gadget because of this movie. I hope not. I don't know.
I mean, who knows?
Who knows? It's probably what he worked on right after shooting this film.
Right? Crazy. I don't know. I think it has its little moments. Like that scene of with the 3 fishing boats is so cool. And it is I don't know, it's like it's a story device that it has like a Jaws feel to it a little bit. They're just like yeah, I don't know. I thought that part was really cool. Like you said, the dude fishing on the pier, that is another, I don't know, it just is like there was the beginning of the film I feel is set up really, really well, and then it just kind of falls apart the longer it goes, and then it's too long and it just continues to fall apart, right? I think that I don't know, I kind of like the only character that I actually really like the idea of their story is Matthew Broderick's character, of just like he's this dude that it like has been studying the results of radioactivity on species and is like cataloging new species, and that's been his job, right? And so of course that's the one that they tap for this. And I don't know, it just is, it's a little too, what did I want to say here? I lost my train of thought because of the cat here over on the side.
Well, you said you liked his storyline more than the other storylines.
I liked his storyline, but I mean, maybe it's just because the one that they like explained the most or like felt like the most necessary. I mean, I guess he is kind of like the main character, but it's like they really drove the story with his character, I guess. Beyond
he's
just
kind of
like
at the center of it.
we need to get rid of this whole like giant lizard.
Other things you liked?
I think it's got some cool action sequences. I like the whole, like them trapped in Madison Square Garden and trying to get out of Madison Square Garden, and then the taxi chase and like him like ripping the ID out of the car and tossing it, and like, I don't know, as corny as some of that is, especially when they're like in his mouth on the like wherever they were, and he just like takes that live power wire, like who's ever gonna do that, and just like jams it into his gum in between his teeth. Yeah, like I mean, it's a great idea, but like, no, who the worm guy is gonna do this? It would have been more believable if it were the French Secret Service guy, right? I get a lot of vibe of like Matthew Broderick, who's just like, I feel brave because the Secret Service guy's here, and he's just like doing crazy stuff. Yeah,
like dressed in army uniforms and all that.
You got a problem speaking, soldier? Oh no, sir, I'm fine.
Oh my gosh! Literally, the second he said that, I was like, "What is he doing, Elvis?" And then, not 30 seconds later, they reference that he is in fact intentionally referencing
Elvis
Elvis.
Presley movies. He was the king.
That got me good.
So good. What's with the chewing gum? Yeah, it makes us look more American. They're just...
I know. That bit was great. Um, I will say it's a little on the nose that I was able to like notice some of those things. And then it like gets regurgitated back to me off the screen. I was like, I got it. Like I understand what's happening. Like you don't have to say it.
That's so funny.
There were a lot of moments like that I feel like that moment represented where I was like, I think I'm tracking what's happening here, and then they like needed to spell it out
And then
from the screen. And they're like,
Yep.
no, we get it. You didn't need to over explain that.
And that's probably why I like the movie so much, because I am the person to just over explain it all the time. Especially if I think it's funny. You can ask my wife about that one. My wife.
My wife.
How I over explain jokes.
God.
Mid-recording.
Chance for it to be a little bit funny. He explains it until it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, that's this whole entire movie.
Sure is.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel that that's actually like a really great, I think summary of it is they took all of the really great parts of a Godzilla movie, I feel, and then just like, we're like, but we need to make it a 2.5 hour movie, and just like stretched out every, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Feels a little forced.
yeah. So I think that's what I like. I think, well, the other character that I like the most because of the comedic relief is Vince or Vincent or Animal or whatever that dude's name is, the camera guy. Just, yeah, I don't know. A little ridiculous, you know.
They gave him some lines.
They gave him some good lines. He's from the Bronx. He's walking here, you know.
There is a bit of that New York,
For sure.
Going on. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start?
Yeah. So should I trash it now?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get to the part that we actually care about. This movie, I'm going to start your section for you by reading the text that I got earlier after you finished the film. I got watching now, and then a few hours later, after it was over, man, that was tough and long. So,
yeah, title of my sex tape. Things I didn't like about this movie. There is not enough story for 2.5 hours.
no, sir.
There is about 75 to 90 minutes of story. Properly edited. Yeah, it was a very, very long. Didn't like that. Also, didn't like the 3.5 minute open credits. The faded orange, stock graphics, cheesy text.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Why are we wasting 4 minutes? Like, if you're gonna do an opening credit sequence, do something artistic. Do something original. Do something that grabs your attention. Put some freaking effort into it.
It is
oh my God.
literally like the editors were being paid by the hour. Title.
So phoned in, that opening credit sequence. Like, it just didn't serve any purpose. It didn't really tease anything that was going to happen in the movie.
Nope.
Just kind of like generic dinosaur-y island images and things, and then it was just right onto the boat. The scene we have at the beginning of every Godzilla movie is a boat going down. We get it.
It's kind of like every episode of SpongeBob starting at the pineapple. Like,
yeah. So, yeah. Entirely too many people fully clothed in the pouring rain. Why did every...
is it cold?
It's a choice.
Is it because
it's a choice to have the movie raining the whole entire movie?
For real.
There's just so many scenes of people, like dialogue, slow zoom-ins, just standing in the pouring rain, just dripping, wet, soaking, looking very uncomfortable. Why? Doesn't have to rain the whole movie. I just thought that was every time like someone like the reason I think it stood out is because there were a lot of scenes in the movie where there were people with umbrellas, and there were characters who like had an umbrella, and then there's other characters who just like, I don't mind being soaked to the bone. To me, that's not believable.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That's not relatable. I don't understand why that's an aesthetic choice.
Do you think it helped? I don't think it helped with CG. I really don't. I think it was just a director's. Yeah, it's definitely a style choice. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, all the raining and everything. Yeah, let's talk about Godzilla. Godzilla in this film is basically an iguana dinosaur. He doesn't look like a Godzilla. He doesn't look like a kaiju.
No,
He's just like a giant iguana.
yeah,
quite literally.
yeah. They went too realistic with it. Like,
It didn't feel realistic. Didn't feel like a monster. It just felt like a giant iguana. It felt like a cheap Jurassic Park 3 knockoff, and by that I mean Jurassic Park 3 hadn't come out yet, so maybe it influenced Jurassic Park 3. But it felt like it was trying to exist in the Jurassic Park franchise rather than, emulate a Toho Godzilla film. So the CG is pretty tough. The lighting. This is a CG Godzilla, is what I mean by that.
yeah,
For a lot of the scenes, I'm sure at the time people were like, "This looks amazing," so I have to sort of give some grace there because I'm watching it with retrospective eyes. But yeah, just texturally, it stands out as not having enough vertices or not looking realistic. The lighting on it was decent. But there's an interesting, sort of factor that I noticed. Just they shot this on film, and there's an aesthetic to the film, but then this sort of mediocre CG comes into it. It totally takes you out of the film grain quality, and on top of that,
yeah,
the aspect ratio. I don't even remember if it was anamorphic or cropped or what it was, if it was 16:9. But there's I felt like I was noticing almost like the CG renders were interlaced or something. Where the compositing, sometimes I don't know if you've ever examined the difference between 1080p and 1080i and kind of the difference how it looks for the average viewer. It's sort of it's movie versus TV.
sure. I mean, I don't know if I've ever
TV.
So I understand it from the way it works,
Technical.
right? From a technical standpoint. I don't know if I've ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably have, but I don't know if I've ever I've never knowingly been looking at a device and been this is a progressive scan and this is an interlace scan and been trying to visually see them, but I understand the difference for sure.
It felt like a mismatch in formats.
Interesting.
Being composited together. The thing that stands out about interlaced footage is that, I mean, without getting too technical, essentially you have these horizontal lines that are being sort of put back together, and what stands out about it is when you have movement, you start to see not necessarily jagged edges, but you can kind of see the lines or the edges of things, almost like tearing. But it's around the edges of objects that are moving, and it kind of stands out to the eye. I'm sure it didn't at the time, but now with a retrospective perspective where I've have seen different kinds of 1080p.
Yeah,
it
now
stands
that you're
out.
saying that, because I literally was just watching the end of it before we got on, and you're you're right. It is. I guess it is something I'd noticed, but I'd never
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I were to compare it to. So this is a year before Phantom Menace. Jar Jar Binks is known as one of the first fully CG characters. It was sort of a test of can we do a fully CG character that's gonna be on screen for the whole movie or whatever. You go back and watch that, sure, like the quality, the texture quality, vertices quality, like it looks like 1999, but it blends into the scene. Like it doesn't look the way Godzilla looks in this movie.
Yeah.
Like Jar Jar doesn't look like interlaced footage, like spliced into like progressive, like digital video. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it almost seems like
It's weird.
like TriStar didn't spend the money on,
Although,
or
to be
there,
fair,
or it just is like that
Phantom
is
Menace
where
was
that
shot
is
digitally,
right.
which was not the same as this movie. So who knows
Yeah.
what the compositing was like? But
And it literally could have been a like that is where the technology was even, or it was kind of like a like at the I don't know. Your face says no.
yeah, I don't know. No idea. Let's talk animation. It's bad.
It's so bad.
It's just
dude.
real bad. Literally, and this is only coming to mind because I've watched so much Corridor Digital talking about CG or animation, or it's having guests on their couch. If you haven't watched it, you should look up Corridor Crew. They have some really amazing, CG animators react, and stuntmen react. There's some really great like informational stuff where they break down scenes and talk about stuff. My take watching some of this animation is like, obviously this is very early 3D CG. Like it's ambitious to like do a full CG Godzilla and composite into a film. Like this is even before Phantom Menace,
and then make it a 2.5 hour film.
Right. So I mean, given what they reached for, like I think they succeeded on a lot of levels. Like it was a ballsy reach, and I think they like pulled it off for the time period. I'm trying to like excuse like some of my like retrospective viewpoints, but yeah, the movement feels like people who learn how to do 3D modeling and positioning who don't have a background in 2D animation, haven't put in like the 10,000 hours of movement to know how something should move to make it feel like it has weight or is light and bouncy, or like all the kind of little squishy things that animators learn from just drawing a frame at a time a million times. They learn how to make something feel big or make it feel small or make it feel fast, or those little things. And like I couldn't tell you like what the trick is, you know what I mean? But it felt like people who know how to like move a model of Godzilla, but like don't know how to make it move like it feels like a giant thing. So like these weird accelerating moments where like Godzilla starts like running, or like even just like the walking, like it's very jerky, very like stilted. So I think that was a miss. Just like the movement of it doesn't feel like, even if you haven't seen a single Godzilla movie, just like operating off the knowledge that it's a 70 meter, or is it 70 feet? 70 meter.
70 meter, yeah.
70 meter iguana, like
yeah,
just knowing that and the
it,
weight of it.
Yeah, and it's
it
walking
like
kind of like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, but like a little more
right, and like it doesn't look a thing like the way a T-Rex would walk, like the weight
front
of the T-Rex in Jurassic Park.
exaggerated, yeah, just like
right,
way out. It's almost like it's almost like this Godzilla is like out over its skis a little bit, like trying to like.
Yeah, I don't know. The movement is janky. It's not super great.
Yeah.
This is really nitpicky and probably unfair given the time period, but they have a lot of they were comping in a lot of fire elements for explosions. They just looked really bad. And that's actually pretty common in the 90s, I think. Sort of like that transition period from them doing like real explosions with like real pyro stuff to like, oh, we can comp in footage of an explosion
and save who knows how many, yeah.
And there's a whole art to like how to do that. And I'm sure it's been done poorly and done really well. And this movie was more on the side of not done well, where it didn't like blend into the background well and look realistic. So that might just be more the time period and the tech they were working with, but we'll talk about budget later, but I feel like they could have done better. Yeah. There's a lot of cornball dialogue.
So corny.
So, like, the one that stood out the most was these two guys, like, looting a store. And they, like, come out in front of the one guy's like, I can't even remember the line. Something about, like...
You know what? You know that bad feeling I get right before something terrible is about to happen?
And he's like, I'm starting to get that feeling now or something. And it's like, stop. Oh, my God. Like, so corny, dude.
Like, why? Why did we have
There's a lot of, like, why did that not make, like, why did that survive the cutting floor? That scene.
Yeah.
It added nothing to the movie. Yeah. So I think the actors did a pretty good job with what they were handed in this movie. For the most part, some of it felt like they're just reading their dialogue off a page. And I don't think it's them putting in the job. I think it's just the dialogue was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue in this movie is just cornball, dude. It's like it doesn't seem like real people having real conversations. It's just very like, I'm gonna deliver these lines and please yell cut soon.
It's literally
my God.
line and then did it and then a line
Like, all right,
and then did
please
it. And...
pay me so I can move on from this movie. I think
we have 3 hours to shoot this. Oh,
the over explaining, the biggest one that I remember from the film, which I'm sure you remember because you seem to remember all the lines from the film, is something like at the very end. It's like about the funny guy with the missing tape, and he's like, well, "Where's the tape?" And then it's like, "Oh, I don't know." And it's like, I wonder if someone else took it or something. And then there's like, literally like he says he voices a thought out loud that could have been internal, and then he there's this awkward pause, and then he receives this very, very obvious phone call and answers it, and you understand who he's talking to, and then it cuts to the guy in the phone booth saying the things and confirming that that's where the tape went, and it's like a quarter of that would have gotten the idea across. Yeah. You did not need to spell that whole sequence out.
And why? Yeah,
we get
at
it.
The end of the movie, dude.
It's like they're trying to market it to someone who's just really dumb and can't follow along or something. You have to trust your audience to follow things.
Seriously, it's like it's almost like they tried to make it a kids movie, and that's why they did so much over explaining. But even still, I feel like kids movies don't even go that far.
Yeah, for real. There's just a lot of predictable things in this movie. I don't know how else to put it. There's a lot of moments I was like, oh, I think, yeah, so this is what's going to happen. Yep, that's what's happening. All right.
Yeah, just too much slapstick, too much of the, I think the epitome of it is, that scene, the dudes looting, and I think something bad's going to happen, and then the one where the news, the crummy news anchor dude is on the phone, and he's like, I need a story, blah, 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 and Godzilla walks by the window.
Oh, my God.
And his assistant is like, sir, I think your story just walked by the window, and, he turns around, and of course Godzilla's gone, and ha 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 ha, and then the tail, and yeah, just
so funny.
Yeah, I think the whole you could have his whole story arc. I mean, I guess it kind of helped with the motivation for Audrey to steal the tape. I had a hard time. Once it popped into my head, I started watching this movie from just wow, you wouldn't be able to get away with that today because nothing's on VHS anymore, and you wouldn't be able to get away with that anymore because nobody's got a freaking payphone, and nobody shoots video like that anymore, and so many plot points that are just purely because of the time.
Speaking of her, there's a lot of over the top misogyny in this movie, almost as if they were trying to use it as a plot device to justify her choices. like in contrast with like the way she's being treated. But it feels so
Yeah,
overhanded that
yeah,
it doesn't feel realistic. Not and I'm not saying that as like a guy who doesn't think misogyny exists. It's just like the delivery and like the way it was written feels very like this is a plot element instead of like this is just a character who's a dick, you know?
yeah, yeah. Especially the whole like
Um,
right before he goes into the newsroom, like, "Well, have dinner with me," and "Well, you're married," and blah blah blah. Like, okay, yeah, like we get it.
yeah.
This guy's a
And
douchebag. You
the
didn't
elevator
need,
moment
yeah,
where he's like cuts her off and he's like this is where like the boys go to do the real jobs or something.
yeah,
So those moments, but as a result, like she's just kind of like reduced to like a reflection of male characters, and like she seems to really only exist as like something for Broderick to like play against in certain moments. Like there's even a moment where like I forget what the mistake was. She was talking about it, but she literally like comments out loud like something about like I lost my chance to like impress the love of my life, or she makes a comment about Broderick's character, and it's like very obvious that like her character is meant to like view herself like through the lens of the other male characters, and it's like very one dimensional, and there's like no point to her character really in the movie. You
yeah.
know,
Other
you could
than
replace her with like a dude and remove the romance part, and it would be just as useless.
yeah, it could still be yeah, it could be like some ex research partner or something, or
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, it's yeah, it is literally
It's
there
just not
just so that
interesting.
right. Well, it's literally there just as a way to be able to kick him out of the camp, as a way to like another like, well, they don't believe him about the nest, blah blah blah, but that's not enough of attention. Like we gotta,
Right.
it is just a
But
way
it's a
to.
waste of like an actress, you know.
It really
And
is. It's
obviously,
a waste of a role
obviously, there's a history
for.
of this in cinema, but
It's a waste of a role for that little payoff and that like little bit of a like plot move. You know what I mean? Like to have a whole entire role just to do that one little like, oh, now we're gonna hook him up with the French Secret Service. That was the whole point of her character,
right.
was to turn him
There's not a
against the
lot of
U.S.
payoff.
government and make him believe the French. Like what?
I mean, mission accomplished, but
I guess.
yeah. Broderick doesn't like contribute much like dialogue wise. His dialogue is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like that's just kind of, I don't want to say just who he is as an actor, but I mean,
there's far better movies he's been in.
true.
Yeah, overall, final thoughts. This movie is hella long, and it seems to forget that the point of Godzilla is not a bunch of things about human characters and drama and this and that, but it's about Godzilla.
Yeah, that's really
My
interesting.
Mike probably peaked on that one.
There's your one peak. It's interesting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to come back, like to see this, and then to watch a couple more, because I think now we're coming up to one that you've seen already. It might be the next film that we watch.
Are we watching Godzilla 2000?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But the dang it, what was I saying? What did you just say? Caleb, cut that out.
I said the movie is hella long and forgets the point of Godzilla is not
Oh
the human
yeah.
characters.
What I was gonna say is that like the human story is something that is constant. I think that Toho knows where they want the human story to fit in things, and the American versions have always struggled with trying to put some kind of human element in and falling short in either overdoing it or not developing it enough. And it's just like, well, you're just here because we need people to fire the weapons, right? So yeah, dude, it's so interesting that this one is tough and it's really long. We'll see what happens when we get into the 70s stuff. Yeah, I got a couple thoughts. I agree, it's way too long. It feels like a director's cut. It feels like it was, just like the extra
In a negative
geeky
way.
in a director's cut that didn't need to exist. It could easily be 90 minutes, maybe. I could see 100, 110 maybe, but the almost 2.5 hour mark is just like, you're not the Lord of the Rings. It's not enough story for that long of a movie. Just
I also like they like ended the movie on a cliffhanger of like an egg that hatches. Like, oh, we're gonna make 2 more films.
right.
No, you aren't.
No, you
You suck.
aren't. I don't know. It's just it's a letdown because I don't know. It's like there was no, I think the cornerstone of every Godzilla movie, and then what ends up being like the driving factor for Act 3, which is when, who at like the final battle, there is always something about Godzilla that they are struggling to understand about him in order to defeat him, or they're like racing against time or something in order to come up with some kind of weapon to defeat him. And the only thing that they had this time was that heat-seeking missiles don't work because it's a cold-blooded animal. Like, we just need bigger rockets because cheeseburger, bang, bang, America. You know what I mean? Like, we
Right.
just need bigger, non-heat-seeking, lockable missiles and we'll be fine. And that's the biggest disappointment for me, is that there was no real try at that aspect of a Godzilla movie. And that's usually what my favorite part is the, like, we'll get to like one of my favorite parts of the story of Shin Godzilla is the human scramble to figure him out and find a way, because like standard weapons just do not work, and we have to figure this out before the United States nukes us again. So yeah, I'm excited to get there, but yeah, I don't know.
We'll get there.
We watched this
I plan
movie.
on watching that one in 4K, by the way.
Oh, you should. I hope so. We watched this movie, I guess, just for what, posterity, for the
It's in the sequence.
just in the sequence, but like, yeah, it's I don't know. Meh. That's how I feel about it. Meh.
Are there any criticisms you have that haven't already been stated?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I just got a couple, like, I guess we could transition to a little bit of trivia about it.
Sure. I have trivia up. I haven't read a lot of it, but
I really only have a couple of things.
Spielberg tried to talk him out of doing the film,
Really?
apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Spielberg
say
said he
why?
never watched it. Just he thought it was a silly idea for Hollywood to try and remake. He saw the one with Raymond Burr. I'm assuming he means the original. But Roland, it says here he didn't like the original Godzilla and only agreed to the project after being promised to do whatever he wanted with the series. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The couple of things that I have are they kind of agreed eventually that they weren't going to show any of the full body of Godzilla in any of the marketing until after the movie had come out. So there were no like toy images released. It was just like there was, they just didn't have, they never revealed the full figure of Godzilla prior to the movie being released. So they're, before they even did principal photography, they filmed a teaser trailer that ran in front of Men in Black. It was budgeted at $600,000, and it was literally just Godzilla's foot crushing the skeleton of the T-Rex that stands outside the museum in New York City, like just his foot, and then Godzilla, and like $600,000 in 1999 for this teaser trailer, and
97.
yeah, yep, 97, and then they gave it an actual like trailer in front of Starship Troopers a couple months later. And then there was like a huge like Taco Bell marketing push with them, where like the Taco Bell Chihuahua was trying to capture Godzilla in a box, like in one of the $5 like big boxes. Yeah, and the other thing too is just the reception of the film was like, it's not just that we didn't like it and we're being snobs, it was like not liked by anybody. Sony said that it needed to make $240 million in order to be domestic. It needed to make $240 million domestically to be considered a success, and it only made $139 million. And then combined internationally, it made $242.7 million. So barely recouped what they needed for it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I have a really fun short little, like, not short, slightly long quote from Roger Ebert here, who
is, if you haven't heard of him, is tough to impress.
Tough to impress.
He's the guy.
So here from Roger Ebert's review: one must carefully repress intelligent thought while watching such a film. The movie makes no sense at all, except as a careless pastiche of its betters. And yes, the Japanese Godzilla movies are, in their way, better, if only because they embrace Drek instead of condescending to it. What the heck is Drek?
Drek. I don't know.
Worthless, distasteful, or nonsensical material. From Middle High German. Rubbish. Dirt. Filth. So, to back up, the movie makes no sense at all, except as a careless pastiche of its betters. And yes, the Japanese Godzilla movies are, in their way, better, if only because they embrace the disastrous, nonsensical material instead of condescending it, which is... What a sentence. You have to absorb such a film and not consider it. But my brain rebelled and insisted on applying logic where it was not welcome. Ebert also pointed out in his review that the character Mayor Ebert and his assistant Gene were the director's jabs at him and Gene Siskel's negative reviews of Stargate and Independence Day.
Wow. This guy holds a grudge.
Love it.
Love it. That's great. Should we get into more trivia?
Yeah, if you got some. And then
you mentioned toys. I thought that was interesting. I'm just on the IMDb trivia, but I don't know if you looked at that, but
I didn't look at it,
so
but
I guess,
I remember the toys. Like I remember everything
okay.
about the marketing of this movie. I was 10 years old. Like this was like the first Godzilla movie that had come out in my lifetime. I was all about it as a 10-year-old kid. But please continue.
Did you enjoy it at the time when you saw it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is always like literally until the last two times that I watched it and like, you know, recently did I like start to realize how terrible it is.
Gotcha.
Like, but in my mind, it is like.
Isn't that funny how that happens?
I knew it was like not a great Godzilla movie, but I didn't realize it was like that bad. But as you know, from the ages of 10 to 14, when I watched it the most, I was, you know, I didn't really care about anything more than just moving the movie forward to see Godzilla again. So.
Yeah, this is such an aside, but it's funny you say that because recently hanging out with some friends and someone I know said that they watched the Aragon movie as a kid and loved it. It was one of their favorite movies. And as someone who read the books and then saw the movie and understood how it is one of the worst movies that has been made from a book, I just couldn't digest that statement.
I have
And
never seen any of those movies, but I did read the first two books.
oh, they
and I
just
enjoyed
made
them a
one
lot.
movie and it didn't do well, and it's terrible. Anyways,
Wasn't that series written by like an 8-year-old kid or some bogus like that?
he started writing at age 14.
Jeez.
Yeah, did a really good job. Anyways, as a direct result of that, I convinced a group of friends to read the Aragon series, and someone threw out rewatching the movie, which I shuddered at. However, if it gets that particular friend to destroy their memory, the childhood memory of this movie, and realize how bad it is, I will be happy.
It. Yeah.
So we're just going to watch it and trash it the whole time. It'll be
Yes.
fun.
Yes.
Back to Godzilla trivia. You mentioned the toys. You remember the toys coming out. I guess they were really secretive about what the design was going to be. So they created separate fake designs and sent them to different merchandise manufacturers to see if any of the companies could be trusted or not. And Fruit of the Loom leaked images of Godzilla on the internet. So they just, like, they lost all business.
Yeah. All the marketing rights.
Which is really funny. The company, like, made the molds or something. The actual design ended up being based on one of the fake molds, apparently.
Weird.
So the final design ended up essentially being the same design as the one that was leaked.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Even though they said it was like a fake design. They must have ended up going with it anyways. So that's interesting. Where is... There's a trivia item here about the T-Rex spot. This one was interesting to me. This movie's intended look was not revealed to the public until the Blu-ray release in 2009. All previous versions contained a serious technical issue, which led to the CG graphics appearing subpar. Apparently, it has something to do with the type of film they wanted to print the movie onto being inaccessible when they released it. So they printed onto a different kind of film and shipped it to cinemas with unfinished looking effects. So, they're basically suggesting that maybe some of the failure has to do with just it looking even worse. They did some digital correction for the Blu-ray release, which was in 2009. So, like, what I just watched is probably even better than what someone in the theater, like, when you were 10 years old would have seen.
Yeah. Or better than the DVD that I is at my mom still.
Totally.
I probably know exactly where it is.
Lead role was written specifically for Broderick, who committed to the film without reading a finished screenplay.
What is he? Who's the dude that plays Alfred in the?
Call me not surprised.
In the Christian Bale Batmans.
Michael Caine?
Yeah, Michael Caine. I'll do it. He just does every movie. They ask, I'll do it. I'll do it. Yeah, it's fine. I'll do it. Oh, Michael Caine. I'll do it. Anyways.
Michael Caine. All you have to do is talk about cocaine. Whose cocaine is it? Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
This one's interesting. Toho gave TriStar a 75-page dossier of what they can and cannot do with the character visually. Here are the bullet points. Godzilla's origin has to be tied to a nuclear accident. He cannot eat people, only fish. He has to have 3 rows of dorsal plates. No more or less than 3 toes on his feet and 4 fingers on his hands. He has to have a long tail. He cannot be made fun of. And he cannot die in the movie. underneath this, there's a paragraph that starts with, "Many of these points were disregarded, as creature designer never received this list, despite Roland having forwarded them to him. Thus, the designer only got a few specific instructions. The director wanted Godzilla to be able to run incredibly fast and not resemble a dinosaur too closely. I'm going to call that a fail.
Mm-hmm.
He also requested the monster be slightly erotic and sensual in the way it moves and brushes its tail against buildings. Why is that so funny to me?
What?
The resulting design combined reptilian and human-like
kiss the side
things.
of the building. Just a nice.
Just like, I don't understand that direction because he was just slamming into him, you know.
For real.
But the point this is making is that some later versions of Godzilla, even Toho's, would dismiss some of those rules, even take away the nuclear origin completely. So I'm sure you know about that. I haven't seen those movies yet, but
I can't think of one off the top of my head that takes away the nuclear origin, but I'm sure it exists.
I really don't understand where they got the let's make the nuclear stuff a French origin. Seems like such a random reach. All the
well, no, because iguanas. So it was because of all of the testing that the French did in French Polynesia, of nuclear testing,
which I'm assuming is a real thing. However, it says here all the footage of the nuclear tests that they use in the start of the film were from American detonations.
Yeah.
So
right, of course. But yeah, the idea, and that's why the French Secret Service are involved, because that dude, I think he says it at one point in the film, the dude from the French Secret Service says, like, I feel bad for the things that my country did, or like feel partially responsible for this, or like I need to help fix this because my country is the one that did all that testing or whatever. And you know, they don't ever, it's like, it's another one of those like real flimsy plot points that they never, you know, it's like, he's just like, we've been monitoring this for a long time and I feel responsible for as a Frenchman, you know? So, I don't know, just as.
Yeah. There's a lot of trivia on this list. Over 1,000 soft architectural pieces were created for falling debris.
Wow.
Hey, this movie is famous for its rainy scenes. They are saying that it was supposed to be an homage to the original 1954 Godzilla, since, according to Devlin, the guy Devlin, almost all of it was in the rain. Which is not true.
No.
I don't. Did you watch the movie?
Just the trailer? Most of the trailer's in the rain, I'm sure.
Maybe that's all he watched. That would make sense. Oh my god. Yeah. Might have some cut points in here because I didn't read all these beforehand.
I have this fun thing that will take any silence over 2 seconds and just cut it down.
Well, it says here, when they first thought up this remake in 1990, they offered it to James Cameron, Tim Burton, Joe Johnston. This is a sequence. Paul Verhoeven.
Who?
John de Bont. These sound like Dutch directors.
Tim Burton.
Looks like it's probably Jan de Bont. He was attached. He was attached to it and actually set to direct, but his budget was higher than the studio was willing to pay, so they fired him. That's when Roland and Dean came in. So probably would have been a better movie with Jan. He says he's a big fan of the character, so who knows? Oh my gosh.
Oh, I realized I didn't scroll to the top of the page before. That word "dreck" that I used from Ebert's review, This is on a list of English words with Yiddish origin. So it's a Yiddish word for
Okay.
filth, worthless, distasteful, dreck.
As
Guy's
in
a bit of a dreck.
this film.
This film's total dreck. Complete dreck.
Yeah. Start using that word for sure.
I wonder if Jamoke is on here.
Oh my gosh. If people haven't stopped listening, they will now. I have no more thoughts about this movie.
I don't either. You want to wrap it up?
I think we should wrap it up.
Great. Let's
Hopefully the next episode is about a better film.
let's wrap this up before it gets worse than the movie that we're talking about. Hi, I'm Caleb. Hey, everybody. Hi, it's the end of the episode. We're going to acknowledge you now.
Hey.
If you made it this far and you haven't seen Godzilla yet, I feel like you got the idea. He shows up. They say, "Hey, we don't like you here destroying New York City." They don't believe the scientists. They try to blow him up. It doesn't work. And then they blow him up again, and it doesn't work. And then there's eggs and baby Godzillas, and they blow him up again. And then there's still one more egg. So that was the movie, and it's all Matthew Broderick, and yay, cheeseburger, bang, bang, America. Anything else, Brian?
I feel like that was a great TDLR, and you should put that at the beginning of the episode.
I'm going to put it at the beginning, but I'm also going to leave it right here. Everybody, this is the one about Godzilla movies. We'll see you on the next one. Yes.
Cut. Going to hit stop recording.
OBS, stop recording.